On October 10, 1866, in the small Romanian town of Baqueu, among the narrow streets and the din of the bazaars, a boy named Isidor Grunberg was born. His father, Joseph, was a respected professor, an educated and demanding man. Their Jewish home was filled with an atmosphere of curiosity and thirst for knowledge, but the boy was drawn not to science but to paints and canvases. From a very young age, he could spend hours watching the play of light on the walls of houses, the changing shades of people's faces. His hands, as if on their own, drew silhouettes, facial expressions, gestures on paper, something that others did not even notice. He dreamed of great art, and this dream was stronger than any doubts. In the end, fate put everything in its place. The young artist took the name Nikolai Vermont not only as a symbol of a new life, but also as a tribute to his father, who signed his works with this pseudonym. In order to become a true part of Romanian society, he embraced the Orthodox faith, and from then on the world knew him as Nikolai Vermont, a future master whose palette would tell the story of beauty, pain, and the truth of life. Thank you for watching this video. And I want to remind you how important it is for us to know your opinion about the artist's paintings and this video. So please do not forget to put likes, comments, and subscribe to the channel. Also, do not forget about our Telegram channel on which we place paintings not included in the video on YouTube. Nikolai Vermont grew up in a time of great change. Romanian art did not yet know the final choice between academic rigor and new trends in the West. The young artist, thirsty for knowledge, went to Bucharest, where he entered the Academy of Arts. His teacher was Theodor Aman, a renowned master who taught him discipline, technique, and respect for tradition. But the young man wanted more, to feel the pulse of the art world, to escape from the strict rules. In 1893, he went to Munich, where he studied at the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts. It was here that he first encountered genre painting, where everyday scenes appear before the viewer in all their emotional depth. New colors appeared in his palette. His strokes became more confident, and his themes became more poignant. Upon returning to his homeland, Vermont joined the Tinerimia Artistica movement, a group of young artists who sought to move away from academic rigidity. Together with Stefan Lucian and Constantine Artesino, he founded the Salon Independence, a place where new ideas were born, where art did not just depict, but became the voice of the people. Vermont develops its own style, realism, imbued with warmth and humanity, full of faith in beauty even in the simplest moments of life. Nikolai Vermont never painted portraits of aristocrats with cold detachment. He was interested in completely different characters, those whom society did not notice or preferred not to see. He went out into the streets, observed the lives of the poor, workers, the unemployed, and women exhausted by hard labor. There was no pathos or exaggerated drama in his paintings, only the truth, sometimes bitter, but always deep. Vermont's realism had its own peculiarity, it was always tender and compassionate. His scenes from everyday life were far from dry documentary. He saw beauty in simple moments, in the wrinkles on an old man's face, in the thoughtful gaze of a seamstress, in the tired hands of a laborer. His paintings told stories about hard work, about the struggle for life, about hope, which does not disappear even in the darkest times. His art resonated with the works of European masters who paid attention to the social aspects of life. He drew inspiration from Munich's genre scenes, but gave them a Romanian soul. Together with Lucian and Artesino, he boldly introduced into Romanian painting themes that were previously considered indecent for art. And that is why his works impressed viewers so much. They saw themselves, their lives, their joys and sufferings on Vermont's canvases. But Vermont did not limit himself to the canvas and easel. His talent demanded scale, and he found it in monumental painting. His brush touched not only canvases, but also walls, vaults, and ceilings, places where art lived forever. At the end of the 19th century, he worked on the frescoes of churches in Cernavodă and Mănăstiri, giving the sacred scenes a lively human warmth. He did not just reproduce traditional biblical stories, but put his own perspective into them, full of empathy and deep faith in humanity. The saints in his paintings seemed earthly, close, as if they could come out to the congregation and talk to them. His talent was appreciated not only by religious communities. In 1904, he received an important commission to paint the ceiling of the Calendaru Palace, and later the majestic Cantacuzino. His art was no longer limited to paintings, it came to life in interiors, became part of architecture, and was woven into the fabric of the city. When Romania celebrated the 40th anniversary of King Carol I's reign in 1906, Vermont's works were exhibited alongside the works of the most prominent artists of the era: Grigorescu, Verona, and Loghi. His paintings impressed not only contemporaries but also future collectors. The prominent art critic Krikor Zambakian wrote that he was literally obsessed with the images created by Vermont, but the war spared neither people nor art. In 1944, during the bombing of Bucharest, some of his works, belonging to the collector Lazar Munteanu, were destroyed. Paintings that could have told us even more about the life of that era disappeared forever in the fire. But there are still some that survived, and they continue to speak to us in the language of beauty, truth, and humanity. Time puts everything in its place. What was once innovative and daring becomes a part of history, and art created with a soul continues to live on, even when the artist himself is no longer alive. Nikolai Vermont did not seek fame, but it came to him, albeit not immediately. His paintings, full of deep realism and compassion for the common man, today occupy an honorable place in the largest museums in Romania. In the National Museum of Art in Bucharest, in the museums of Suceava, Barlad, Constanta, Râmnică-Vâlcea, his works continue to excite the audience. His work stands on the verge of several eras. He absorbed the influences of academicism, admired the Impressionists, but remained faithful to realism, not cold and soulless, but full of life. There was something of the great masters of genre painting in him, and at the same time, something uniquely Romanian, sincere, close to everyone. His works are not just paintings, but stories. They speak about people who lived in his time, but their joys, worries, and hopes are still understandable today. This honesty and simplicity is the true greatness of Nikolai Vermont. And as long as there are those who look at his paintings, he remains alive in his art.